Well, man, I words can adequately express it. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm so grateful. Um, I thank God for this blessing because that's what it is. And I also thank Him for preparing me for it. You know, the good Lord kind of prepares you for things before you get there, and you're just wondering, and he brings the right people together at the right team, and boom, there it is. Um, and being born on a little country farm, as we said, in Aner, South Carolina, across the river, uh, and and coming up and during that period of time, small farm there, and knowing what's at stake, doing the hard work, it kind of made me what I am, and I'm so appreciative to it. And then to sit here and now that I am chairman of the powerful and influential House Agriculture Committee, and the great honor of being the first African American to chair that committee. And the other thing, as you know, part of my history, of course, and our history, the first African American member of Congress in the history of our country to chair any committee. And that really drives it home, as much as being the first to be on the ag committee, but to share any. So I mention that because it shows the greatness of this country and on whose shoulders I stand, the people who paved the way, the members that across this country of every race, creed, and color elected me overwhelmingly, 144 to 82. That's God's work. And what better thing I can do than to get out here and manifest God's work by making sure we feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and heal the sick. Because agriculture is our single most important industry. It's the food we eat, the water we drink, clothes we wear, our shelter, our renewable fuels. It's all of that. And we can do without a lot of things, John, but we cannot do without food, water, our clothing, and shelter. And when you really realize that agriculture is the leading part of the economies of 44 states out of 50, it's agriculture. And it's important now more than ever that we let the nation know, and the nation is realizing more and more every day how important agriculture is. And so I just feel just overwhelmed. And I know how I got here. I'm so thankful, but it always goes back to the people of Georgia. Because if it weren't for the people of Georgia, I wouldn't be there. From the state house for 8 years in training, being nurtured by the legendary Tom Murphy. I don't know if you heard of Tom Murphy, but he was my first mentor. And then 8 years, then going over to the state senate. And then my mentor there was a gentleman by the name of Culver Kidd. I don't know, you probably might not know of these guys. Uh, Zell Miller, you may know, of course. But man, Georgia has been blessed with some great, great elected officials. And I've had the opportunity of learning from them. Became the first African American to chair the Senate Rules Committee. All that preparing me. And I'm so grateful. but I stand on many shoulders of people who've given me a helping hand up the ladder. And now to be chairman of the House Agriculture Committee is indeed a blessing, and it's really exciting. Agriculture is facing so many challenges, and we're going to jump right into these challenges and deal with them firsthand. We got the challenge of climate change, for example. We got to deal with that. No more just throwing this around like it's a political football, talking about the Green New Deal or doing away with farm. That's not it. When it is our farmers who are suffering and impacted the most, our food supply is being threatened by us not dealing with climate change, getting the answers to it. So one of the first things I will be doing, my first hearing, will be on climate change. We're going to bring in the scientists, the engineers, the farmers who are out there grappling with it. It is agriculture that is in the position of doing the best for carbon sequestration, as you know. No-till farming, regeneration, all of that comes from farming. And we have to put the finances, we have to put the intelligence there. We need to bring in NASA. We need to bring in our space explorers. Who would have said, but just not long ago, I heard that NASA has discovered traces of water on the moon. I mean, that's phenomenal. We need to bring NASA in. We need to bring our farmers, our agriculture experts in, our engineers, and get this issue of climate change within the bosom of that industry that is impacted the most from changes in the weather and the weather patterns. Try to figure out why so many fires all of a sudden burning up the West Coast. Hurricane after hurricane just lining up 1 week apart coming in. We've got to get answers to that. And so we will do that. And then we need to deal with the other aspects of bringing our rural and urban communities together. And what better way of doing that than using rural broadband? We got to do that. We're losing too many of our rural communities. Towns are disappearing. People and young people are leaving the areas. Why? We're not connected out there. And we can't go on that way. We've got to connect and be one community, urban and rural. I love Atlanta, but we can't grow cotton in Atlanta. Corn, we can do a little corn, we can have our gardens, we can do that. But agriculture is in the rural areas, and we've got to make sure that our rural communities are vibrant and strong communities. And so we're going to move in that direction. There's also the issue of justice for Black farmers. We all know that there is discrimination in various places, but we got to look at it, and we got to look at it together and make sure the beautiful, bountiful world of agriculture is open to all of us, regardless of race, creed, or color. And we're going to do that by bringing in those that can share and come before Congress and make sure and talk about it. Give us the examples. Bring the agriculture secretary in who has to administer many of these programs. If there are complaints from our Black farmers, we need to know about those. Then we got to lift up this issue of hunger. I am just brokenhearted with the statistics that are coming across my desk about the growing hunger. One statistics point out 17 million of our children are being malnourished. That's the word. That means they're not getting proper food intake. In America, we got to deal with that. We got to bring our food banks into Washington, get them before Congress, tell them what we need. We need to get our food processors. We need to get everybody that is in the food supply chain up before our committee and say, what's going on here? What do you need? And then go and get the financial support to make sure that we have no holes in our food supply chain, because climate change, our food security, inequities in our agriculture system, we got to deal with that. And the best way of doing it is to bring those impacted people with our farmers and agriculture industry in, with our scientists, our weather experts, and deal with it. And now the other thing is that, especially here in Georgia, you remember Michael, the hurricane, just as an example. That was devastating. And my heart was just broken with the inability of us being able to get disaster aid to our farmers in a timely manner. So I'm proposing legislation where we can set up a separate emergency funding foundation where we have money available so that when the storms and the hurricanes are hitting and the floods and the tornadoes and the fires are burning, that we can get aid right down to our farmers and not wait months, even into years. You know, John, we have too many of our farmers now who have committed suicide. Research has shown us, and I understand it. Coming up with a small farm is all you got, your family, and you lose it. We need to make sure that we get money and financial aid to our farmers quickly, immediately. And the best way to do that is to set up a private fund away from the cumbersome, politically differentiated, laden appropriation system where it gets into politics. And meanwhile, our farmers there with no help. That's got to end. And I want to really deal with that. And I think that those areas are very, very important for us to deal with. The hunger, and it's just unacceptable. And then, of course, I think I did mention the issue with our rural areas, and we've got to bring broadband in there. So I believe that we're going to get those 5 hearings up and running as quickly as we can so that we are addressing the real serious and timely issues that our farmers are being faced with now, and we can move forward on it. We have a strong history of bipartisanship. That is what has made our Agriculture Committee impactful. And that is something that I cherish and build upon. It speeds the process along when you have Republicans and Democrats working together. And that's been a hallmark of mine. I'm going to have as great a relationship with Secretary Vilsack, who's the new agriculture secretary, as I did with my good friend Sonny Perdue. We done great things together. And one of the greatest things we did together as Democrats and Republicans was putting together an $80 million scholarship program for the 1890 land grant colleges and universities for African Americans, like Fort Valley, Florida A&M, all of the 19, all over the place. And that has gone down historically as one of the greatest bipartisan measures ever passed in Congress, to get $80 million to go to the 19 African American land grant colleges and universities, coming through the Agriculture Committee, implemented through the Farm Bill, to get more people into the wonderful careers and farming opportunities, agriculture production, trade, and finance and marketing in agriculture. And that could never have been done if Republicans and Democrats had not come together.